Welcome to That's a Tap. I'm CT, my co-host with me DJ, and welcome to our first episode. We are two fight fans from Melbourne, Australia. Um, really excited to be bringing this podcast to you, and we hear all our thoughts on all combat sports, MMA, boxing, the like, and just two good friends, and we'll give you our thoughts and welcome DJ.
Thank you, CT. I'm so happy to be here. Obviously, as you mentioned, we just love combat sports. We love talking about it. We love watching it, and we thought, why not bring everyone into the fold? So hopefully, you guys will enjoy what we are doing as well. It's our first episode, so give us some love. Look, I'm very honored to be co-hosting this with CT, who's well known in the NBA circuit. He runs his own podcast and he's worked with the likes of Mark Berman from the New York Post. So, CT, I'll start by saying it's a privilege to do the show with you. But without further ado, let's get into fights. Let's talk about fights. We had a massive card on the weekend. Headlined by the biggest fight of them all, the heavyweight championship. A lot of talk and buzz going into the fight. So, did you manage to catch the card?
Yes, wouldn't miss it for the world. And it delivered. If I'm honest, it delivered to the expectation. But we'll get into the main event, of course. But DJ, the main event didn't quite go as much as I thought. But overall, the card delivered for me. What did you think of the whole card as a whole?
I actually enjoyed the card, right? I actually like the card. On paper, probably not the strongest card the UFC has put out there. When you look at sort of the cards leading up to this, they had some really strong cards. You got the Madison Square Garden card, and you got the UFC 269 for the lightweight championship, but it was a stacked card. And then obviously, we got two massive fights at the top, and then people can argue, not to the same caliber with the other fights, but man, did the card deliver. I think that it was filled with a lot of exciting fights. One of our very own local talents fought in the card to a very impressive performance. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. I thoroughly enjoyed the card, and I was very happy with the card. I was very happy with the main event, and I was also very happy with the co-main. Obviously, stole the show, I felt, but overall, pretty solid card. I mean, what was the card last January? Oh, obviously, last January was a massive card. With Conor McGregor fighting. It was the second fight with Dustin Poirier. But I probably not to that caliber in terms of the names and notoriety, but pretty good card.
Yep, absolutely. And as our episodes grow, we're going to be covering what's going to be a huge year for combat sports and the UFC in particular. We're big UFC fans because they put on regular fights and with the best fighters, DJ, and excited for what the year brings for the UFC. Obviously no pandemic, with crowds now, and the Honda Center in Anaheim, great place for fights, Southern California, and it was
Yeah.
it was a good atmosphere.
Yeah, and it was definitely a pro Moreno crowd, right? It was safe to say that the majority there were there to support Brandon Moreno, right? When he walked out, the pop he got was massive, and he's just become a star, right? Like since earning that belt last year, right? And then since then, that his journey and his rise to start and in keeping things, being true to himself, I think he's become a big bankable star for the UFC. So yeah, definitely it was good. It's always fun. I don't know. Look, I like those Apex fights with no crowd where you can, hear the thuds and the kicks and whatnot, but nothing beats a crowd. I personally think nothing beats a crowd. When the crowd joins in, the oohs and the ahs and, knockdowns and the crowd joins in. The crowd during that Moreno Figueiredo fight was insane, and I couldn't have imagined how it would have been, being there in person, present. So, yeah, good card. And like you said, it's going to to be a great year ahead for combat sports and UFC particularly. And if this card, if we say, is setting the tone for what's to come for the rest of the year, I'm very happy with that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to share more fights and our thoughts on the fights coming up. And of course, be interactive with us. In the comment section. We
Yeah.
love sharing our thoughts with you all. But hey, DJ, let's start with the top, the heavyweights. That's what we're here to see. Boy, hey, the fight didn't go the way most people expected. That
CP, can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? If I had told you on Saturday, we were talking, right? We were talking Saturday night. Because obviously down here in Melbourne, for us, the fight's on a Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
You on Saturday night, Francis Ngannou is going to win or retain his title, right? And it is going to be by decision, and the fight happened the way it happened. Would you have believed me?
No, I would say you're crazy. I would say, what are you saying?
Oh, oh,
What are you doing? Francis Ngannou using jiu-jitsu? I mean,
oh my god! Oh my god! But overall, what did you think of the main event? What did you think of that fight overall?
look, overall, it wasn't as action-packed in terms of what the crowd wanted, violence, Francis Ngannou putting someone to sleep, or Cyril Gane, using his speed, agility, technical ability. It was, I saw it was two guys that looked pretty scared in a way to make a mistake, The dude's scared to make a mistake. Francis Ngannou, my respect for him just went up after hearing about the knee injury. We got
Yeah,
word that the fight almost, didn't take
100%.
place. And it just made a lot of sense, DJ.
100%. 100%. Right. Look, I think we got to analyze this fight properly. We just got to step back a bit and look at some of the events leading up to the fight. Right. There was a lot going on. Right. The storyline that this whole fight was built on was teammate versus teammate. One guy, turned his back on the team. Left the gym, left the country. Sort of. Even at the press conference, we saw even the French media was trying to get into the whole action, and they were trying to accuse Francis of things and sort of telling him that he's not appreciating or he's not grateful for what France did to him. I didn't think that was the case. So there was all that going on. There was the whole contract storyline going on. What does the future hold for Francis Ngannou in the UFC, and all that. And then you look at some of the stats. You got one guy in Cyril Gane, who's keep in mind, right? He's been at it for only 3 years, right? And look at what he's achieved, right? He's fought the top names in the UFC, the biggest organization out there, and also have won in an impressive way. It was 10-0 going into this, right? I think I read somewhere he's fought 22 rounds and he's only lost one round in this whole entire time. He's won every fight. And then we got another guy in Francis Ngannou. Obviously, he's had every win he's had in the UFC. It's come within that first 2 rounds, right? And it's always been by a vicious knockout, and I think there's a submission win in there as well. So you got this scary finisher, right? And you got this elite striker, right? Cyril Gane, sorry, comes from this kickboxing background, and we were what we expected is either Francis goes in and puts Gane to sleep in the first 2 rounds, or Cyril just weaving in and out, right, and doing what he does, right, and eventually breaking down Francis Ngannou, and there was definitely that expectation that he will gas out. Right? There was a lot of questions from Francis Ngannou's side going into this fight, with people asking, because while he showed a lot of new things in that Stipe fight, in that second Stipe fight, we didn't see enough, right? It was across the first 2 rounds, so a lot of improvements, a lot of new things, those takedown defenses that he showed, sort of his measured approach and everything. And we were excited to see, like, does that hold up across 5 rounds, right? Because the 2 times we've seen Francis go the distance, or especially in a five-round fight, which was the first Stipe fight, we saw him gas out, right? We saw him, just, take up that bottom position whenever he was on the ground and didn't really try to get out, right? So there was a lot of questions in that end. Will Francis last the 5 rounds? And man, did he answer those questions, right? I think definitely not the fight that a lot of people were expecting. Right? I even saw some comments here and there where people are saying, "Oh, look, not what we thought. It wasn't exciting and this and that." But I disagree. I think that fight was exactly how it needed to be. I mean, could you imagine the pressure that Francis Ngannou had going into the fight, right? I mean, after the fight in his post-fight press conference, he did say, "Look, I've accepted it. I'm at peace with where I'm at, right, or where sitting things are. Like I can't control these things." But to think, like your contract's on the line, right? Without a doubt, if he had lost, we're looking at a different storyline, different pathway for Francis, right? And then also this thing where he's the underdog. He's a champion. He's the underdog. They made an interim title 3 months after he defended, he won his title, which is insane, right? I don't think that should have happened, right? Yes, it made the storyline more exciting. Champion versus champion, but I felt it was a disrespect towards your heavyweight champion, right? Like I didn't think there was a need for that interim title, especially when he was willing to fight in September, but they wanted to have that fight in August, right? And they created, so there was a lot of politics going on in there. Look, I'm not there. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? I don't know who's right, who's wrong. So I'm not going to comment on that. Like I'm in no position to do that. But there's definitely conflict there, right? Francis is saying his side of it, and then we got Dana coming out and saying, if you want to stay, you can. If not, then he's also saying, I've had a good chat with Francis. We bumped into each other in a restaurant, and then he's also not there to wrap the belt around him. There's a lot going on, right? And then you got the experts or the analysts sort of writing you off being the champion. So there's a lot going into the fight, and I think he came in and he answered all those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. You broke it down great, DJ. He just gained a lot more respect for me. In that a champion finds different ways to win, and if you ask people what's Francis's strength, it's knocking people out, and he hasn't won too many fights other ways, right? And as a fighter, you got to respect, especially an athlete, through injuries, through adversity, through expectation. A fighter that can deliver through adversity with the knee injury, that would have held a lot of people out, a lot on the line. And I think, for him to be able to win other ways, he used his weight, and boy, did he look heavy. He looked as big as I've ever seen it, DJ. He was throwing Cyril Gahn. That body slam sent vibrations through my screen. I mean,
man, mark my words. I think someone said it in a Twitter comment that's going to be an NFT, and I will not be surprised if it. That was an insane slam. That was WWE slam, man. Right? That was an insane slam. No, I agree. I think he showed a different facet of his game, right? And that's what champions are made of, right? Clearly, you're down 2 rounds. Would you agree with me if I said Cyril Gahn won the first and the second round, right? I don't think they were 10-8 rounds. They were 10-9 rounds. Like there was not much action. So, but he still clearly won those first 2 rounds. And I'll be honest, right? I'm thinking, okay, here we go. And I saw Francis looking a bit gassed, but I also saw Cyril Gahn looking a bit tired as well. Not to the extent of Francis Ngannou, because Francis was breathing through his mouth and all that. So I was like, oh gosh, here we go. It's going to be Stipe repeat, right? The first fight. And man, to be able to be two rounds down, carry all that pressure, that injury as well. Let's make a mention of that. To come back round 3, knowing, okay, I need to win these 3 rounds. I need to knock this guy out. And he understood. Look, I'm not able to touch this guy, right? There were the credit where credit's due. Like Cyril Gahn was very evasive, right? Francis couldn't connect cleanly. He was very good at that, and that's his bread and butter, right? That's what Cyril Gahn does. And to come back, make the adjustments, right? See, okay, well, there's one way for me is to nullify that. How do I nullify that? I use the ground game. Starts grappling, right? Slams him down, and didn't do much on the ground. Like I don't think he did. There was one point when he was trying to go for a couple of submissions. I just don't think he was really chasing it. But it was more brute strength, right? He just used his mass and his sort of strength to hold him there, right? I'm glad the ref didn't stand him up, right? Because it is part of the game, right? It is part of the game, and I think we saw that across the next 3 rounds. In the post-fight press conference, I saw Cyril Gahn saying, "Look, we were anticipating that. We knew that, one way for him to nullify my skills would be to take me down." But what I was so surprised was then how come you weren't, for someone who's so good at distance management as Cyril Gahn is, how come you didn't make that adjustment yourself? How come you didn't? Why not? Like, okay, it happened the third round, it happened the fourth round, fine. Why not make that adjustment in the fifth round? I think Cyril Gahn got a takedown on his own, but then he started chasing for that heel hook, and then Francis ended up reversing him, right? And then back to top control for Francis, almost mounted him, can't really remember. But it was just a dominant ground game. I think at that point, ground control time was almost like 4 minutes for Francis. So showed an element that people didn't think he had. This is Francis Ngannou, that is, right? And also, for me, what was very impressive, as I mentioned, was making that adjustment, being the champ, knowing you're 2 rounds down, right? Making that adjustment and coming back and doing what you need to do. That's what champions are, right? That's what championship is about. Facing adversity and overcoming that. And that he showed that, right? And that fight, in a way, sort of showed that story or what he's going through at the moment, facing adversity, overcoming it, right? Making adjustment and getting over it, right? I think the story in itself, in becoming a champ from where he started, in itself is great, right? So I think I was happy with the outcome. I thought the right person won. Proved a lot of people wrong, which was great. I did have, I think we both had Francis Ngannou winning, or we picked him to win, but never him to win by decision. Also, with so much grappling going on. Now, CT, we're going to talk about Cyril Gahn as well, right? We can't just forget about him, what he's done in the past 3 years, to put himself in that title contention, to be considered a favorite against the champion, right? So what did you think of Cyril Gahn's performance, if there were any positives at all that you were able to see?
Look, yeah, I think experience is going to be, he's going to be the beneficiary of the experience. I was about to say, Francis showed the experience of big fights. I think 2 fights going head to head with Stipe. Stipe prepared prepared Francis for that fight. The evasiveness, the technique, and I think Cyril, hasn't faced an opponent of the caliber of Francis before, and that's the first time, and he will have learned a lot. He'd have learned a lot from the experience, live crowd, and all of that. And he was very humble, Cyril, in the post conference, talking about, he was disappointed in himself, but he feels like, hey, I've got a bright future still. I'm here. I'm excited where I've got to in this short space of time, and look out for me. Look out for me. I'm here.
Yeah, and it was great to see that he kind of took that on his stride, and then he's like, you know what, doesn't matter. I'll learn from this. I'll come back, and I think he will. He's the type of guy who will learn, and he'll come back better. I don't think, if Francis stays in the UFC, I don't think this is the last time they face each other. I think they're going to be in that top echelon of guys in the heavyweight division, right? I really hope Francis doesn't leave. We'll talk a little bit about it later. But I also want to credit Cyril on his sort of, he was able to implement his style of fight the first 2 rounds. He was, although not to the level of, I would have liked to see a little bit more activity, right? A little bit more volume. Still, right? You're facing this monster who can knock your lights out, right? He was cautious, and you could see that from his body language too. I felt like there was that sort of big brother respect in him as well. Sorry. So credit obviously for him to be able to implement that game plan. I was a bit disappointed that they couldn't adjust knowing for 2 rounds you've got, out grappled. So what do you do now? What can we do? I think that fifth round um, corner advice was very vital for both parties. And I thought, and I want to definitely give a shout out to both sides. The corner advice was spot on for Francis, right? It was motivating. He was doing the right things. To keep doing what you're doing. Don't get it. Let's do this, right? Let's go get this. Whereas I thought Cyril Gahn's coach, Fernand Lopez, was a bit emotionally charged. He could have given him a bit more technical advice and okay, it's clear what you need to do to win this fight is to do what you were doing in the first 2 rounds, but don't get taken down or try and avoid that takedown, right? Manage that distance. But instead, what we heard him say, and look, obviously they were talking in French, but there was a translation there. So what I heard was, look, you can't lose this round. You can't lose this fight. We need to win this fight. We need to. It's all good, right? But you need to give him a bit of technical advice. You guys down. 2 rounds. He's got out grappled. So what does he need to do now? Clearly, what he's doing is not working. So I feel like there was a lot of emotions there. I think the coach himself was emotionally charged. I think it was more the coach wanting to defeat Francis Ngannou, right? So that kind of affected Cyril Gahn. A lot of respect for Cyril Gahn, but so much was going on. I felt he was the guy in the middle who got caught in the crossfire, right? He was the fighter, but he was the face of everything, but he wasn't the one instigating anything. He kept it professional. He was respectful. There was no bad blood. He made it very clear. It was very respectful the way we behaved. So it was very good to see, and definitely credit to Cyril Gahn. He is a great fighter, and I think he'll definitely be champion one day. Right? He's going to make the adjustments, and he's going to come back. Right? And another scary thing from if you're a heavyweight, right, is you got this guy in Francis Ngannou who's getting better after getting the title, right? We've seen that in the likes of Kamaru Usman, who was in his corner, right? Kamaru Usman got even better after he won the title, right? And there's a similar storyline too. You got Kamaru Usman who changed camps, since our fight, like since the championship. Same thing, Francis Ngannou's changed gyms and he's working with Eric Nixick. It's scary to think that he's getting better and better, right? What do we get next time when Francis Ngannou fights, right? Now, my question to you, I guess this is a big question. Everyone's waiting to find out what the answer is going to be, right, from the UFC. Do you think, CT, that Francis Ngannou stays in the UFC?
That's the $1 million question. I think, and just off the back of that, I think it was Joe that asked him, in the octagon, about his desire for boxing. He was asked, what are your plans in the future, and do you see yourself boxing? And to me, his response seemed quite enthusiastic about venturing into boxing and giving it a go. He said, definitely before my time is up. So that you could read a lot into that, but I think boxing is probably a little bit more further down the track from what I gathered, and I still feel like he's probably got a few things more to prove. He wants to prove a few more things in the UFC. As for what would attract him, he's a John Jones fight. Maybe settling it with Stipe, beating Stipe one more time. If you had to put a gun to my head, DJ, I'll say he'll remain in the UFC. What about you?
Ooh. I hope he does, right? I want him to, right? From the UFC's point of view, I just don't get what they're trying to do. Clearly, there's been some misunderstanding. They don't see eye to eye. But obviously, the main issue is with Francis's manager, who was also Kevin Lee's manager, right? But through that, it's all spread into this. But Francis has also been vocal. I'm the heavyweight champion. I should be getting paid more, right? When you have a guy like Francis Ngannou, right? When he was fighting this past Sunday, leading up to that fight, everyone was talking about it, right? You got Mike Tyson in the arena coming to cheer Francis Ngannou, right? You got The Rock talking about it, right? This guy, he is a household name. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows him as this scary heavyweight dude, right?
Yeah.
If you ask me, who are the two baddest men on planet Earth right now, right? Because the heavyweights are considered the baddest men, right? The heavyweight champ is the baddest man. If you ask me, I'm gonna say Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, right? That's it. Right. So I can't. I'm very surprised by the lack of urgency to retain someone like Francis Ngannou. Like the UFC is a much better place with someone like Francis Ngannou, right? His story is amazing. It's a beautiful story, right? It's that rags to riches story, right? A lot of adversity, a lot of hardship, right?
Mm.
Championship material, right? Has a lot of star power. Definitely under promoted, right? Leading up to this fight, how much did we see of Francis Ngannou being promoted in the UFC channels? Not so much. There was even an error made in one of the stories they put up. They put his story as the predator, and then for Cyril Gane they said the champ. Right. So there was clearly a lot of under promoting going on. I think they've got this wrong. I think he is. They're saying this, and rightfully so. He is the Mike Tyson of UFC. Right. Look what
Mm.
Mike Tyson did to the world of boxing. Right. The excitement he brought, the way they promoted him. Francis Ngannou is set to do the same thing, and I think the UFC, it's UFC's loss if they don't retain him. I know they're saying if he wants to go, he can go, like, and all that, but sometimes, man, pay the guy what he's asking, keep him. He is a great fighter, great champion.
Mm.
And he's, and when you think heavyweight, that's it, heavyweight champion, like he's legit. Right? I hope they retain him. I really, really do. I hope. And same thing, gun to my head, I have this feeling that he will stay. They will keep him. They will come to terms. Right? I just hope they do. Right? And I think I was going to ask you one more question, but you sort of touched on it. Is who do you think he fights next?
Yep, that's the main thing. I think that's going to be central to negotiation,
Yeah.
and I do think it's got to be John Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 I don't care what you got to do. Two guys who's got conflicts with the UFC, right? Make it work. We need to see Ngannou versus Jones, right?
yeah,
That is the fight to make. That'll be a blockbuster fight, regardless of how the fight plays out. The lead up, the everything is going to be insane. It'll create pay-per-view wonders. They need to make that fight, right? And then
yeah.
quickly to wrap up this whole Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane fight, and also sort of the main event. Did you oddly feel like it was a full circle, but Francis and Ngannou on the wrong side of it this time? What I mean by that is, if you dial back the clock, Francis Ngannou is stepping up to fight Stipe Miocic for the first time for the heavyweight title. They were under promoting Stipe. Stipe wasn't happy with the UFC, and then they were promoting Francis Ngannou, and it was all Ngannou. Stipe wasn't happy. He complained, and he didn't let Dana wrap the belt. And then, obviously Stipe ended up winning, right? And then, the whole, and it's as if it's the whole thing's repeated, but this time Francis Ngannou is on the other side. They were promoting Cyril Gane, and they wanted Francis to lose, and it's sort of like in an odd way, it sort of repeated itself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I could see that as well. USC, they say no fighter's too big for the UFC in terms of, we are the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we like people that are easy to deal with and will make the fights. There's always going to be that situation.
Yeah.
Francis is not, he's not marketed, like you said. They don't really capitalize on that, on his
Yeah.
marketability. John Jones has been in a heap of trouble, and they still want to put him central to big fights. So it's Steve
Yeah.
Stipe's not getting much love. There's been no talk about him fighting since he
Yeah.
lost. Like,
Where's Stipe, right? He considered when he defended the belt against DC for the third time, talks about the best heavyweight, right? Where is he now? Why is there no talk? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot of politics, I guess, is killing some of these fighters. I hope they can overcome that hurdle. We want to see good fights. We want to see these fighters thrive. It's not a sport where there's a lot more dangers around in this sport, right? UFC, MMA or boxing. right? You literally, going into a fist fight, right? So I think a lot of risks. They put their lives on the line. So let's hope this situation gets resolved, and let's hope we continue to see Francis Ngannou in the UFC. But now, for me, this was personally my show stealer, right? The core main, Figueiredo Moreno. What did you think, CT?
Oh, it delivered in spades. It's the best flyweight fight I've ever seen personally. The back and forth, the heart both of them showed.
Yeah,
The Moreno came out real cocky, looked like he was
yeah,
full of confidence. He was feeling
yeah,
himself, couldn't put a foot wrong,
yep,
throwing heavy shots. And
yeah,
Figueiredo, my respect for him just went up and up, taking
yeah,
shots, looked dazed, wobbled a few times. And that
yeah,
last exchange just capped off, like you said, the best flyweight I've seen. And I thought Figueiredo was the just deserving winner. Former champion,
mm,
bounced back.
yeah,
Moreno unlucky because he still fought a great fight, but at the end of
yeah,
the day, I think Figueiredo learnt from last time, and he proved that he was the better fighter this time around. What did you think,
yeah.
DJ?
100% agree. What a banger of a fight, right? From the walkouts, the crowd being involved with booing Figueiredo to cheering Moreno, right? The pop they got, right? And then the fight starts and it's just insane pace, right? Look, I was taking notes just to like sort of analyze the fight, and my fingers were a blur, right? At one point, I just gave up. The crowd was definitely a massive factor. At one point, just to watch the fight from a neutral point of view, I had to mute my TV just so it's not just so I'm not being, pulled towards a certain side. But definitely a back and forth fight. I don't know if it's really, I don't want to be recency biased. Definitely was one of the best flyweight fights, but easy to say. Let's put it this way: Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno have been involved in two of the best flyweight fights in the history of that division. Simple as that, right? We did see a lot of dominance when Demetrius Johnson was reigning over the division, and Henry Cejudo, obviously a shorter span, but something similar. Whereas now we see these two equals, right? They are, right? Um, I'm ready for the fourth fight. It was such a good fight. We saw Moreno with a lot of volume. Uh, and initially power too. We saw, like you said, he had Figueiredo wobbled a little bit here and there, but then we saw Figueiredo come back, and sort of Figueiredo was a different Figueiredo. We know Figueiredo as this guy who just runs in. He loves a dog fight, right? He throws mad bombs, and then we had a more measured approach from him. He was waiting. He was waiting to counter. Again, I felt I would have liked a little bit more activity from Figueiredo, being the challenger, right? Going against a favorite champion. Yes, he got the nod at the end, but I still felt, he could have showed a little bit more urgency, a little bit more activity, a little bit more volume on capitalizing, right? I think he did a good, those leg kicks were crazy. It definitely started taking a toll on Moreno in the later rounds. We saw his movement hampered. We know Moreno has this fast striker. The bantamweights are fast, man. It's always fun watching these lighter weight fights because of the speed and the pace they keep. And they kept that pace. Their fitness was insane, right? They both. I had the fight 1, 3, and 5 Figueiredo, and then 2 and 4 for Brandon Moreno, right? But I would not have been mad if the decision had been the other way, right? But I'm glad it came this way because we had the draw, then we had one win by Brandon, and then now we got Figueiredo with taking the third fight, right, which sets up that fourth fight. Usually, not very often are we sitting there asking for a fourth fight, right? But this is one of those fights, right, where you just want to see it. It still will be that exciting fight. I just don't want to see it straight away. I do want to see a bit of variety now. Kai Kara France is fighting Askar Askarov. I want to see that winner, challenge for that belt. Maybe after that, I'm happy for if Brandon Moreno wants to sit out and challenge the winner of that fight. I'm happy to do that. I'll be happy with that because he's earned that. He's been in some tough fights. He's proven himself. I think Figueredo asked for the fourth fight in Mexico. That would be nuts.
Yeah.
But he's a madman. Figueredo's a madman, but he's also exciting. So, um, great fight. I know Cejudo always says, I saved the flyweight. I would like to respectfully correct him. I think Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo have saved the flyweights. They've injected that excitement back into the division. But look, I do want to mention Cejudo's influence as a coach was very visible, right?
Yeah.
Even from the press conference, you saw a lot of cringe from Davis and Figueiredo, saying a lot of things. It was very unlike him, and you could see like this is the Andy Cejudo coming out. And same in the fight too. It was a lot more measured. I think the commentators made a mention of this. When Figueiredo started, his stance was very reminiscent of when Cejudo comes out, right? So there was a lot of adjustment made. It was a good move. I thought it was a good move for Figueiredo to go train with Cejudo. The influence is what helped. I felt if Figueiredo had rushed in to get into a dogfight, I think Moreno would have caught him. He was clean and crisp with his strikes. So I think that influence helped a lot as well. What did you think, CT?
Oh, yeah, like you said, it was a lot of back and forth, and just a perfect 5-round championship fight. Like you said, 3 rounds to 2. It wouldn't have been mad if it had gone the other way. Moreno,
100%.
was within his right to feel like he could have deserved it. It came down to the last round. It could have gone any way in that last 20 seconds with the bombs being thrown. And it's one of those fights, like you
Yep.
say, instantly we want to see a fourth one. Two dudes at the prime of their
Yeah.
division, and I think we are going to see another big one.
Yeah.
I think he's changed his stance. Figueiredo, he
Yeah.
said he wants it in Brazil now, not
Oh, you did
Mexico.
it.
Yeah,
But either way, it's crazy, right? That last flurry, as exciting as it was, I thought it was a bad decision on Figueiredo's
oh yeah,
end, right? Because Brandon Moreno clearly got the better of that exchanges. He was landing more. Figueiredo was just throwing eyes closed, just haymakers, whereas Brandon was still tagging him, and he definitely got the better of it. I think that was just Figueiredo's instincts taken away. He just going back to being himself, right? That's him. That's what he likes
yep,
to do. Um, yeah, look, let's wait, let's see for that fourth fight. One thing I want to mention though, 4 fighters were involved in the main and the co-main. I don't think anyone's brand value dropped personally. Even Cyril Gahn probably can be out of those 4. I guess probably could be considered the person who suffered the biggest loss in terms of brand value, right? But nonetheless, it wasn't that bad. Like they still walked away with their brand intact, right?
yep,
Still got still survived that, survived those bombs, right? Took the fight to 5 rounds, right? Kept fighting until the end. Francis Ngannou, definitely the biggest winner out of the lot. Changed the perception of the media, the public, proved a lot of people wrong, showed a different aspect to his game, showed that he's evolved. Like you said at the end, this is the evolution of heavyweight, right? I think Brendan Moreno and Figueiredo both walked away winners, in my opinion. Great fight. They all were classy after the defeat. There was no bad blood anywhere. But I do want to give some special mentions to some of the other fighters on the card too. I want to start with our very own Jack Della Madalena from Perth. I saw him in the Dana White Contender Series with a very impressive performance. But my God, did you see that fight? That was a striking masterclass. At no point did he look in trouble. That first round, like, it was the one word I described that fight for however long it lasted was clean. It was a clean fight.
yep.
His opponent just looked in all sorts of trouble. It was just a matter of time before he finished. Impressive performance. I'm looking forward to him. He's very young. He's 25. I'm looking forward to seeing this guy come back and represent, Australia in that big stage and be that next Robert Whittaker, that next Alexander Volkanovski.
Yep, yeah. The future's bright for Australian mixed martial artists, and the platform now. These other guys have blazed their trail and opened the doors, and it's only going to be a matter of time. Like we are going to be one of the pinnacle
Yeah.
regions, no doubt. Australia, New Zealand, just like
Yeah.
Brazil is a pinnacle
Yeah.
region. We are,
Yeah.
the future's bright. So yeah, salute to that man, and a great shout out, DJ.
Yeah, amazing. And like you said, very bright future for Australia and New Zealand, right? Look at the fighters, look at the stars that we have. Very excited. Also want to mention Said Nurmagomedov. Whenever you see that name, you know there's going to be dominance involved in some form. Very dominant performance, right? Very dominant in the striking exchanges. The transition into the ground was very smooth, right? As he was going down, he had the choke. It was just as he was going down, Cody Stamann was ready to tap, right? That it was a very dominant performance.
Brilliant.
Again, one of those bantamweights to look out for, right?
Yeah.
Were there any other fights that stood out for you?
Yeah, the Michel Pereira and
Fiallo.
Fiallo. Yep,
Yeah.
that was a worthy fight of the night contender.
Yeah.
Michel Pereira, ever as interesting and technique wise. Fiallo
Yeah.
just took a beating, kept coming forward. He
Yeah.
he earned my respect too, and I really enjoyed that fight.
That was a very fun fight. It was a fan-friendly fight. We knew that the moment you see Michel Pereira in a card, you know this is going to be a fun fight, right? His evolution is very noteworthy too. Like from rushing into things now, he is also a bit more measured and adapting as well. I would love to see this guy win or lose to remain in the UFC for a very long time and to keep seeing those entertaining fights, right?
Yeah.
Another fight, another sleeper, but was a fantastic fight. Was Barcelos and Henry. There was the feature bout in the preliminary card, and it was an insane fight as well. A lot of like a high paced fight. Henry being a clear underdog. Obviously, I think if memory serves me right, he lost the first round and he comes back and puts a beating, and it is just non-stop pace. It was a great fight. I was very entertained by that fight. Like, I mean, I wasn't that quick to give it the fight of the night after having watched it, while it was definitely on any other card that was a fight of the night. But I knew that, Figueiredo Moreno was yet to come. And I knew that was going to be a banger fight, right? So I knew that until that fight's over, you can't make that prediction of which one's going to get the fight of the night. But, rightfully so, Moreno and Figueiredo took the honors of fight of the night. Look, overall, good card, entertaining card. There was a lot of things that happened in the card. And look, fun card, right? But with that card closing up, we got UFC 271 to look forward to. That's going to be in Houston. Again, another packed crowd. But CT, this is going to be a massive fight for us. Why is that?
Robert the Reaper Whittaker.
We got Bobby Nuggles, Robert Reaper Whittaker, Robert the Reaper Whittaker taking on the champ Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. Two amazing martial artists, one from Australia, one from New Zealand. Man, am I excited for that fight? I'm nervous. I'm excited. Part of me doesn't want to watch that fight, right? But still, it is going to be a feast for any combat sport fan. I'll probably be ordering the pay-per-view tonight, right? I'm that excited for that fight. Two great fighters in their primes going against each other. A rematch. We see all these rematches sometimes getting thrown around for no reason, right? As much as Brandon Moreno, Davidson Figueiredo was a great fight, before the fight, I was wondering, well, why are we doing this rematch? Because there was a definitive end to that second fight, right? I can understand maybe down the track, but why? But obviously, it ended up being a good fight. But this is one of those fights where it's a rightful rematch, right? Whittaker lost his title, right? Sadly, we were there to witness it live. We were heartbroken. And then since then, we've seen Whittaker go and build back his legacy, go from strength to strength, right? If we ever had any doubts, everyone was like, how is he going to come back? What, he looked burnt out, right? It was a bad knockout in front of his home crowd. He might not come back the same fighter. He might not be as dominant. He comes back and goes on a tear, right? Takes on Till, Jared
Kananaya.
Cannonier, and then Gastelum, right? It was meant to be Paulo Costa. Obviously, didn't work out, and then Gastelum. And each fight, he got better. We saw a little bit of that rust, that not so much as the rust, but that uncertainty or the hangover from that knockout in that Till fight, where in the first round he did get dropped again. But then I think he shook it off, came back strong second and third round, and got a dominant victory. Went on, and I thought the Cannonier fight was a dominant victory because Cannonier was tipped to be that next contender. Dominant victory. Said yes to Costa. I thought he was ready to get the rematch after the Till fight. I thought it would have been validated. Took on Cannonier, another top contender. Then said yes to Costa. I personally thought he would have beaten Costa, but then replaced by Kelvin Gastelum. Put on probably his best performance to date, right? And then now here we are with this rematch, right? A lot of build up. There seems to be a little bit of bad blood, right? A little bit. Hopefully they can hash all that out. Two guys I really like, and we also need to talk about Israel Sanya since winning that belt. Another one of those champions who's gone from strength to strength, right? Yes, there was after beating Costa. I think Costa was his first title defense, if I'm correct. Yeah, Costa was his first title defense. Blitzed him, right? It was touted to be this big fight where Costa was coming in undefeated as well. Blitzed him and went on, took a massive challenge, right? Chased greatness, chased that light heavyweight strap. Obviously came up short, but great performance too, right? Stood for 5 rounds against a scary champion, and he still came out a winner. Took that loss on the chin and learned from it and came back even better. Had a dominant against Marvin Vittori, and now here we are. He's again another guy you got to respect. He's a champion who's taking on top contender after top contender, similar to Kamaru Usman. He's lapping the division now, right? So two guys who've been performing extremely well, and here we are, rematch time. What is your prediction?
So I think it's definitely going to go longer than the last fight. I think Bobby Knuckles has paid his dues, learnt a lot since that. Obviously, Adesanya's had a loss since then too in the light heavyweight. So my prediction is the fight will go a lot longer. I think they'll feel each other out. I think Bobby Knuckles his strategy is going to stay on the outside, not try and not get clipped like last time. Going to fight with precision, counter, and it's going to be a fight like that. And I do feel like it's going to go to the scorecards. I feel like it's going to go to the scorecards, and I think Bobby Knuckles is going to, similar to the Till win, he's going to just be on his game, try not to get clipped. And I think Adesanya is also going to play on the outside too. It's going to be a bit more of a cautious fight between the two, and I could see it going to the scorecards. What about you, DJ?
Spot on, CD. Couldn't have said it better. I see it the same way. I think it's going to be a more cautious approach. I definitely see it going to a decision. Look, they could prove us wrong. We never know. Definitely, I do see Adesanya trying to stay on the outside and chip off, clip him and look for those openings. Adesanya is probably one of the best strikers in the UFC, right? Or in combat sports in general, right? The way he sets traps and the way he executes his plans is amazing, right? And I think, Whitaker's mentioned this a couple of times as well. His path to victory it needs to be a more grappling heavy approach. However, can you keep Adesanya down, right? He's not, yes, what's his name? Jan Blachowicz was able to do it, but he was a much bigger guy on that night. But also, Adesanya is someone who's proven time and time again that he learns. Win or lose, he learns. And he evolves, he gets better each time, right? So, he's added definitely more tools to his arsenal. Can you keep him down? But it's not just about taking him down. It's about keeping him down, being able to work on him on the ground, right? All these things. Ground game, you expend a lot of energy, right? Can Whitaker sustain that, right? When striking is there's gonna be pockets of striking, even if you're going with that grappling heavy mindset. How are we going to deal with that? There's a lot at stake, and that's why this fight's exciting because they both can win this fight. Both guys can win this fight, right? It's not like a one-sided. Even though that first fight was so one-sided, I think Whitaker's a different guy. He's reinvigorated. Adesanya is a better fighter than he was the first time they fought. So it just sets up for that exciting fight, right? My prediction, it's hard, right? Like, I want to go with my heart and say, Whitaker edges out that decision. How I'd like for it to play out, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you this. How I'd like for it to play out, right? Adesanya won the first fight. I would like Whitaker to win this fight in a decision, 5 rounds. And then they have a third fight, and it's a majority draw. They walk away, 2 best guys of the middleweight division. That's how I'd like for it to play out. But let's wait and see.
Hey, that'd be nice. But
That'll be nice, yeah.
Two of the best in our region, in best in the world. I think it's going to be crazy pay-per-view. I'm thinking, fan favorites, these 2 men all over the world. And stay tuned. Of course, we're going to be bringing you all our thoughts in the wash-up to that big event, DJ.
100%. And don't forget, there's a banger of a co-main with Taitu Wasa taking on Derek Lewis. Let's hope there's a shoey at the end of it. And then we also got a very critical middleweight bout between Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson. It could potentially be that next number 1 contender. So exciting card. Looking forward to breaking it down, analyzing it after the fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap.
Yep, and we'll see you again on the next episode of That's a Tap. Peace.